In this screencast we'll be looking at the real exchange rate, which is the nominal exchange rate adjusted for prices of traded goods. Most people are familiar with the concept of the nominal exchange rate. It's the price of one currency expressed in terms of another currency. The real exchange rate is a purchasing power parity adjusted measure of the exchange rate. Basic principle is the real exchange rate value of 1 reflects a position where the nominal exchange rate is in line with purchasing power parity. It means that the exchange rate reflects the value of the currency in a way that means it has equal purchasing power when converting to a different currency. Now, to show this in a bit more detail, we need to look at the pound-euro exchange rate and look at the real exchange rate, pounds to euros, is equal to the nominal exchange rate, which reflects the number of euros that can be acquired for a pound, and also look at the price of products in pounds and the price of products in euros, the terms of trade. I'm going to show it slightly differently here. I'll use the equation that shows the value of the pound in terms of euros, where £1 would be valued in terms of euros and shown by the fraction euros over pounds. Now clearly then we multiply that by the price relationship between the prices of a good in pounds and a price of a good in euros. And so therefore if we have an exchange rate of €2 to £1, it should reflect that the price in euros of this good is twice as much as the price of the price in pounds. Therefore, purchasing power parity is maintained and the real exchange rate equals 1. What we'll do now is show this again, but for a particular product, a product sold both in the UK and in France. So we'll look at the nominal exchange rate, and here we're going to show that the value of the pound is expressed in terms of euros, and so £1 can be exchanged for €1.40. Now the price of the product in pounds is £3 and the price of the product in euros is €4.20. Therefore, the real exchange rate actually reflects purchasing power parity. The currencies have the same purchasing power when exchanged. So the euros per pound for the nominal exchange rate multiplied by the terms of trade for this particular good gives an indication that there is purchasing power parity. The most widely used indicator of real exchange rate is actually the real exchange rate Big Mac index used by The Economist, and it started in 1986, and there's a lot of data available on The Economist's website giving you the latest Big Mac index, and you can look at it from the perspective of a range of different currencies. So we'll show this using The Economist's simple example. They're using the product, which is to a certain extent identical in most countries. Clearly there are some slight differences, but let's say the dollar to euro exchange rate 0.04, the dollar can buy 0.74 euros. The price of the Big Mac is $4.79 in the US, and in France, in euros, €3.29. So this would suggest that the real exchange rate doesn't reflect purchasing power parity, and there is greater purchasing power of one particular currency. In this case here, it's the dollar has greater purchasing power when converted to euros, and this is reflected in the fact that the nominal exchange rate 0.74 is probably too generous in terms of how many euros a dollar can buy. So we'll show this again, where if a US holder of dollars exchanges $4.79 at the current nominal exchange rate of 74 euro cents, they'll be able to acquire €3 54.5 cents. And what that really shows is that they can acquire more euros than they need to buy that product, the Big Mac, which is priced at €3.29. Therefore, the dollar, when converted to euros, has greater purchasing power. The nominal exchange rate should reflect in the long run. And this is a classic, very simple example using the price of Big Macs in two countries to show where the real exchange rate gives an indication of where the value of a currency may be over or undervalued. So what's important here is to recognise that when the real exchange rate is out of line with parity, this means that the nominal exchange rate could lead to arbitrage being possible. So for example, now we're switching back to an example using the pound and the euro. If the real exchange rate for the pound is greater than 1, this means that pounds will buy more in terms of euros than is required to buy the same goods based on the prices of these goods in the two separate economies. This means that holders of pounds could profit from changing currency to euros, buying the product in euros, and then selling the product for pounds in their own economy. And this would mean they could benefit through just trading based on differences in prices of products and the nominal exchange rate not reflecting purchasing power parity. This is the concept of arbitrage. The same could be said for holders of euros when the real exchange rate for the pound is less than 1. Holders of euros could benefit or profit from arbitrage by buying pounds with their euros, buying the product in pounds and then selling it in France at a euro price and benefiting from those differences in prices and the fact that the nominal exchange rate doesn't reflect purchasing power parity. Well, this means if the real exchange rate is high, foreign traded goods are relatively cheap and domestic goods are relatively expensive. If the real exchange rate is low, foreign traded goods are relatively expensive and domestic goods are relatively cheap. This should put pressure on the nominal exchange rate, and it should in the long run bring it back into line to ensure that it reflects purchasing power parity. We've dealt with a basic bilateral exchange rate here. In the real world, there are many costs that get in the way of a straight price comparison, such as transport costs and trade barriers, but the fundamental notion that when RERs diverge, currencies face pressure to change. Overvalued currencies, the pressure is to depreciate. For undervalued currencies, the pressure is to appreciate. Clearly, it can get more complicated if factors such as government policies hinder normal equilibrium of exchange rates, and this is often an issue in trade disputes. Economists usually prefer to compare purchasing power when countries sell more than one product and also trade in a number of currencies. So therefore, the real effective exchange rate is more useful because it allows adjustment for a broad basket of goods. This could give an indication of how competitive a country is. There's clearly an awful lot more information and factors affecting exchange rates that could be considered, but this was just intended to be a brief introduction to the concept of the real exchange rate, purchasing power parity, and the concerns when the real exchange rate diverges from the nominal exchange rate.